Hello guys, this is Oroth and a warm welcome back to my channel. In a few days they will release the new Tempest class and I'm really looking forward to theorycraft and come up with a lot of new and cool builds to share with you guys. But before that I wanted to share some strong Blood Knight builds, and for starters I'm gonna show you a very effective open world farming build that I'm using with Blood Knight. So let's first take a quick look on the skills I'm using. As primary attack I'm using Shadow's Edge, even if I'm not going to use the primary attack that much. In the first skill slot I'm using Whirling Strike. In the second skill slot I use Spear Flurry. In the third skill slot I use Siphon Blood. And in the fourth and final skill slot I'm using Swarm of Bats. And if we look on the essences here, I'm using Horns of the Hexed Helmet. And what it says is that Siphon Blood is no longer channeled and now moves with you, dealing damage and draining the life of nearby enemies. And what it does is that whenever I use Siphon Blood, I will have an AoE effect that follows me wherever I go. And this is very good for open world farming. And what's also very good with this specific essence is that if I'm moving forward like this and I use the skill, it will not have a cast time or animation time, so it will not slow me down whenever I use it, which is also something I prefer. And if we continue and look on the chest piece, I'm using Teeming Grotto, and what it says is that Swarm of Bats also destroys enemy armor, increasing the damage they take by 19%. This works very well with the shoulder slot here, which is Flagellant's spines. And what it says is that Swarm of Bats now consumes your life to sustain the swarm as it hunts down enemies. So basically if I use Swarm of Bats, it will start dealing damage to myself, but it will stay on forever as long as I have enough HP. And it works very well with Siphon Blood then, because Siphon Blood will heal me. So yeah, it's a very nice tree here with the shoulders, the helmet and the chest piece here. If we continue and take a look on the legs or the pants, I'm using Made to Wander. And what it says is that Spear Flurry now causes you to dash forward, damaging all enemies in your path. And Spear Flurry can be activated again up to 2 additional times. So if we look now, when I use Spear Flurry, there's a dash skill, and you can also see like a countdown around the skill button, which shows how long time I have to use the skill again. So in one charge of Spear Flurry, I can dash up to 3 times. So it's a very strong essence for mobility, and this is something that we of course are looking for in an open world farming build. And if we continue here and look on the first main hand, I'm using Reverent Hunter. And what it says is that Siphon Blood also slows enemy movement speed by 30%, absorbing their vigor, and increases your movement speed by 10% up to 30%. And yeah, what it does is that whenever I have enemies within the Siphon Blood area, it will increase my movement speed. And I do use Isatar. We will take a look on my set pieces soon, but sometimes if the Isatar is not active, it's good to have this extra tool for increased movement speed. So yeah, it's a decent essence for this build. If we look on the first offhand, I'm using Mooncall, and what it says is that Shadow's Edge also increases your primary attack speed by 10% for 2 seconds for each enemy hit, stacking up to 3 times. So as I've already mentioned, I'm not using the primary attack a lot, but if I have to kill a boss, it's good to have some extra damage output, and that's why I use this essence. But it's not super important since I'm not going to use the primary attack that much. If we look on the second main hand, I'm using Indulgent Calligrapher, and what it says is that Whirling Strike now causes you to dash forward, damaging and knocking back enemies in your path, while also applying a stacking bleed. Whirling Strike can be activated again up to 2 additional times, with the final strike hitting all nearby enemies and knocking them airborne. And this is very similar to the Pants essence, but it's with Whirling Strike instead. So if I now use Whirling Strike, it's also a dash, and you can see the same type of countdown timer around the skill button as when I use the Spear Flurry. So now I have 2 amazing tools to move around faster when I'm farming. So a super good essence, in my opinion. If we look on the second offhand, I'm using Hanging Chalice, and what it says is that after Shadow's edge hits an enemy, 2 blades ricochet out randomly, targeting nearby enemies and dealing damage to them. So if I'm ever engaging a boss with a little bit more HP, then I'm gonna sometimes use the primary attack, and then this second offhand helps me to kill off some monsters around it a little bit faster, perhaps. But yeah, it's not a super important essence since I'm not using the primary attack that much. But what is very important in this build is the legendary gems. So first of all, I'm using in the chest slot here Blessed Pebble, and what it does is that it increases the duration of beneficial effects on you by 12%, and it also increases my movement speed by 8% for 3 seconds after gaining a beneficial effect. And here I can say that beneficial effect duration is very important because I want to have 100% uptime on Siphon Blood. With my current setup, I have around 1 second of downtime, but it's very possible to have 100% uptime. And in order to achieve this, you want to have as much beneficial effect duration, and you can get that from this Blessed Pebble, as I just mentioned, but you could also get it from the magical attributes. And if we look here on my chest piece, I have 4.5%. I have 6% on my pants. I also have 4.5% on my waist and 4.5% on my feet. The optimal rolls here would be to have 7.5% on all 4 of these. You can also, of course, gain extra beneficial effect duration from 2 pieces of Vitus Urge, and that's why I'm using it. And you can also get it on your Reforge. So I really recommend everyone, because this is not only for this build. Beneficial effect duration is super important for most builds and most types of content. So I would really opt for this option when it comes to Reforges. There is also another way to achieve 100% uptime on Siphon Blood. And yeah, the point is that beneficial effect duration is not enough. You also want the skill cooldown reduce. And this is something you can get on your necklace, on your gloves, or on your rings. And as we can see here, the maximum roll is 5%. So in theory, we could get 20% skill cooldown reduced from the set pieces. And I have 4% plus 5% plus 3%, so I have 13%. So there is still some room for improvement here, and that's why I'm not having 100% uptime on Siphon Blood right now. I have around 1 second of downtime. But let's continue and look at the other legendary gems. I'm using Volatility Shard and I'm using Igneous Scorn, and these two are very similar. Volatility Shard will deal an explosion whenever an enemy dies, while Igneous Scorn will deal an explosion whenever I make a critical hit. And the cooldown of these effects are both 6 seconds, which is very good for open world farming. There are some gems like Starfire Shard, for example. The effect is very good, but it has a 20-second cooldown, and that is way too long to be effective in open world. So when you pick out gems for open world farming, I would look for gems with low cooldown on the effect. And what these explosions do is that they often kill the target, but on top of that they also spread dot effects. So let's say that Volatility Shard is exploding when I kill a monster, then the explosion will help to spread the dot effects or to kill off the other monsters in that pack. And the purpose of this build is that if I'm just able to damage one of the monsters in a pack, I will then kill off the whole pack. So that's why I really like these two gems for open world farming, and that's also why I'm using the Void Spark, because it also helps me to spread these dot effects onto targets a little bit further away from me that I haven't been able to damage with the AoE effect of my Siphon Blood, for example. I also use 3 dot gems. I'm using Rolling Consequence, I'm using Seeping Bile, and I'm using Viper's Bite. So there are 3 different dot effects that will be applied to targets, and this will be more than enough to kill them. So I never have to stop, I can just keep on running, and we will soon take a look at the gameplay. And finally, I'm also using Blood-Soaked Jade for some extra damage, and it also gives me movement speed. And before moving on and watching some gameplay, let's just take a quick look on the set pieces I'm using. I've already mentioned 2 pieces of Vitus Urge for beneficial effect duration. I'm also using 4 pieces of Issatar for extra movement speed and some extra damage. And I also use 2 pieces of Banquet of Ice for some extra damage. But I would probably say that instead of using 4 pieces of Issatar and 2 pieces of Banquet, I would probably only use 2 pieces of Issatar and use 4 pieces of Gloomguide's Prize, because we do have a lot of dash skills we are using, so that effect from that set will be active all the time. The reason I'm not using it is because I don't have that good pieces with any skill cooldown, etc. Or beneficial effect duration, and I already have enough damage to kill them off, so that's why it doesn't really matter for me. But if you want to optimize, I would go for 2 pieces of Vitus, 2 pieces of Issatar, and 4 pieces of Gloomguide's Prize. So let's move out now in the open world, and I'm gonna show you some live action, how this build performs. So let's first just do 1 attack here on a pack. I said that if I just deal damage to one of them, they will all die. So if I hit it once like that, there are explosions triggered, and there are void spark that goes crazy. And the point now is that I just want to move forward as fast as possible. So I put on Siphon Blood, and I activate the bats, and now we're gonna get to work here. So let's see, maybe there's someone here, but that's a good thing, I guess. Okay, perfect. We have a barbarian here, and that's good because now we can see how fast we can go compared to the barbarian. So I'm trying to conserve my dash, so whenever I use a dash, I want it to end up in the middle of a pack. So for each pack I'm using the dash once. And this way I will conserve it. And I never have to stop. I can just keep on running. It works super effective. And I should probably be able to outrun this barbarian fairly easy, because dash skills are so important in open world. So if you want to farm as fast as possible, really look for effective dash skills that you can use. So yeah, I mean, this is the build. I really hope that you think it looks cool. Until next time, I want to wish you a very nice day or a very nice evening wherever you are. And of course, to all of my clan members in Nyx, I would also like to say Voruk Nyx Sholok Sol. So bye bye.
If a boy or if a girl,
subscribe to Boros channel.
let him take you to his world.
Subscribe to Boros channel.
The best choice you will ever make.
Subscribe to Boros channel.
Hit the bell, a piece of cake.
Subscribe to Boros channel.
Let me tell you one more time.
Subscribe to Boros channel.
All the answers you will find.
Subscribe to Boros channel.